Oh, hey Rob.
Oh, hi Lucas.
You're my favorite engineer.
Today I'm your favorite engineer. What can I do for you?
I just got off the phone with Johnny.
How's Johnny doing?
He's doing good, but he's got a firewall problem. He has a 5-year-old firewall that needs to be refreshed. There's so many options out there, he doesn't know what to do.
Why is he looking to refresh his firewall? Does he just want to replace it, or is there a specific reason?
He needs to replace it because it's no longer sized for his internet connection, but he also wants to make sure that there's not a security breach like Sony. He doesn't want to be in the news for data loss. I think there's several needs all at once, and he really wants to make sure that he gets a complete solution and doesn't just buy the same old thing they've always gotten over the years.
We should probably evaluate a number of different possibilities for Johnny. We should look at IPS solutions, IDS solutions, next generation firewall solutions. We need to be picking security responses that allow protection based on specific circumstances instead of just traditional layer 4 firewalls. All those things are focused more around the maturing of the threat landscape. Security is not as much of a conversation about technology as it used to be. It's almost more of a conversation about philosophy.
I'm still a little confused. What exactly is the specific difference between next generation firewalls and unified threat management systems?
That's hard to answer. So technically speaking, a unified threat manager is a firewall with advanced security features, right? With all of that stuff that we whiteboarded wrapped into one pretty box with a bow. And a next generation firewall is technically a firewall with advanced security features. Everything we whiteboarded wrapped together in one box with a nice shiny bow. So there are a few technical differences about how they work and what they do that differ from vendor to vendor. But the biggest way to think about it is that different boxes satisfy different requirements. So what we should do is we should have a more in-depth conversation about the customer's specific requirements, find out what problems the customer is looking to solve before we can throw any specific box at it. Does that make sense?
Yes, so it sounds like they do a lot of the same things, but there's a different use case for different types of solutions.
That's very true. So one of the big things that's happening nowadays is people are focusing more on creating policies at an application level or at a user level. So that instead of having to define security policies by IP address, port, and protocol, we're actually able to define them by application traffic because our devices are smart enough to understand what those applications are and what they're doing. So you don't have to write traditional firewall rules anymore in some cases. In other cases, you define traditional firewall rules and then pass them through IPS, IDS, and application visibility filters after the fact. It all depends on where the customer is looking to solve these problems and in what sequence.
Will you break down exactly what we're trying to do here in a monologue?
Absolutely. We need to be able to identify what Johnny's traffic is doing, where it's going, who it's intended for, and who it's coming from. And we need to be able to build security policies around all of those different factors. We need to be able to identify new and evasive threats that may not have hit the threat landscape before, and we need to be able to respond quickly to those threats. And more importantly than that, we need to be able to identify when profiles and people who live within the network are acting out of character or behaving in a way that doesn't make sense, because threats don't always come from outside. They may come from hijacked accounts inside the network or a number of different factors. We need to be able to identify all of those things, and we need to be able to speak to creating a solution for all of them. Layer 4 firewalls don't do it anymore.
Security is a scary landscape because the more security manufacturers and devices continue to escalate, so will threat producers, so will threat developers and malware people. Those threats will continue to escalate and security will continue to escalate, and our goal is to make sure that those things are escalating in a way that keeps people out of your network as opposed to making it easier for them to be inside your network. New and complex dangers require new and complex approaches to security, and it's like what we talked about earlier with security as a philosophy. You have to think about what you're protecting and who you're trying to protect it from, and then you build your security portfolio around it with specific things that target those requirements.